Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video. Today we're going to be doing some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta going forward. Probably looking at a few other things like volatility, maybe some TLT and other things like that. So stay tuned, give a like to the channel, and we are first going to talk about XLU. Remember, I just wanted to talk about this for a moment and say, if you wanted to get information on why I'm overall thinking there's going to be a stock market crash in the next 30 days, and it could be right around the corner, go back just one video and check out that video before you look at this one. But today we're going into those shorter time frames. So let's get into it with the SPY. We already talked about the SPY on those higher time frames. Once again, if you want to see that, just click back into the previous video from Saturday. That's going to be a very good video for you to pay attention to. I'm excited to get into this week. We've updated the course, but today you need those daily risk ranges and the weekly risk ranges if you weren't here for that. So we do have a 534.22 to the upside, and we do have 524.66 to the downside. Okay, so these ranges here, they're priced in by the options market, and we have a 68% chance to land within this zone. Remember, if we get excited outside of that very early on, I would say on Tuesday or Wednesday, just in case, you want to pay attention if there is weakness up in this area or if there's strength down in this area, because you do land in this zone 68% of the time, but 32% chance that we do see something crazy. Okay, now if we need a little bit closer for Tuesday, well, what do we want to pay attention to? The daily expected moves, and that's going to be 530.76 to the upside, and we have 528.12 to the downside for the SPY. So overall, what the signals look like from this perspective here, and we were talking about this a lot over the last few weeks. Now, I did have to take a hiatus, but I'm going to get my desk, I believe, tomorrow. It keeps saying it's being delivered and it doesn't. But what do we want to pay attention to? Okay, so first of all, if you're looking for a signal for more downside, the 30-minute crossing over. It's going to be very, very simple. If this 30-minute is able to cross down into negative territory, we could see downside. But right now, I'm kind of leaning towards a push up. I think this is going to be a little bit more trappy in here, maybe even push up a little bit higher. We'll pay attention to this throughout the week, but this is the weakness signal you want to pay attention to. So 30-minute chart here, if we can keep going positive, what are we going to see? More positivity. But if we actually see this cross down on the MACD, where would we be? Negative territory, continuing this negative trend, maybe testing this low, going to make a new one. And this is something important to know. You see this yellow line down here. We are outside of that monthly expected move, and we only have this week to get back into that move. So if we are going to see some kind of buy up, well, then in order to land back in that zone, we're going to have to see a significant drop. So we're going to be paying attention to these things. Remember, down in the description, there is the Patreon and the course, but on the Patreon, we're actually putting out those weekly update videos. And if we see something set up tomorrow, we're going to update that during market hours so you can actually react to that. Now, we do pay attention to both sides, right? So this is going to be your confirmation of more upside, maybe to test this high up here, or go make a new one. Maybe we get outside of the range, and this is a signal we can pay attention to. So I really think we might see some positivity early on, as long as this AMC and GME thing doesn't crash the market and cause some people to go liquid a little bit in their stocks, their assets. But as of right now, we need that to curl up. So this hasn't curled up, but what do we say? Well, when we see a big push up, if you miss out on this move, wait for it to get down to that center line and cross up into positive territory. That's usually a good sign. You're going to test the high or go make a new one. And this weekly range isn't as big as usual. So if we do see that head up here, what are we going to do? Cross on this MACD, continuing a positive trend. Notice we cross up in positive territory. Positivity happens. Okay, so if we cross up and go positive here, we can see a positive reaction. And right now, the options market is telling you 534.22 is what they have priced in. So anything above that will be unexpected. Okay, so what I'd really look out for is if this 2-hour curls up, and do we get some kind of point of divergence? Does that confirm? I think that would be a huge thing to pay attention to as we go on into Tuesday trading. Now, just to keep it interesting, we're going to do it a little bit backwards for the Qs. We're going to start on the 2-hour and then go to the 30 minutes. So what are we noticing on the 2-hour? Well, we've beaten down a little bit, getting a little bit closer to that center line. Sure, we can see another dip down. So we want to pay attention to our daily expected moves for Tuesday. So to the upside, we have 459.67 to the upside, and we do have 456.23 to the downside. Very, very small move priced in for Tuesday, okay? Very, very small priced in for tomorrow. So what are we noticing here? Well, if this curled up, we could see another positive move. We've already had some divergences on the RSI, but not necessarily on the MACD at the same time. So I'd really like to see that divergence at the same time. That's usually when I see overall weakness in a move, and that just means what can we do? Well, we can reverse that trend into negative territory. So we already updated the course over this weekend, giving you the exact things to look for when you should get out of a trade. It's a very, very good thing, and that course is only $100 for pretty much this week as of right now. So you can get that by Friday. So literally by Friday, it is going to go up in price. So get that for $100 right now. Link in the description. But if you curl up, positivity can come. Right now, what do we want to pay attention to going into tomorrow? Also, I'll just say the weekly ranges for you real quick. 463.96 to the upside, and we have 451.94 to the downside. So a little bit smaller range this week. Now, what are we noticing? Well, first of all, we're in positive territory pretty good on the Qs. So if we continue to pull back, maybe we do use that daily expected move downside, and then we start to go higher. Right now, I think we do have potential to just head higher here, cross up on that 2 hour. But just in case something else happens, well, if this 30-minute curls down, I want to make sure to pay attention if that is fully going negative and not reversing back up, because that just could be another little pullback move, and then we see upside overall throughout the rest of the week. So paying attention to the signals as of right now, the 30-minute looks like it could cross down, but it's not overbought. It's in positive territory, so we have to talk in positive context. This looks pretty controlled. So we could just start to see this rotate back up, and maybe we look out for a 2 hour divergence outside of our weekly expected move, because we land in that 68% of the time. Okay, so if we go outside of that pretty early on in the week, there's a good shot that by Friday, we're going to end back in this zone. All right, so we're going to pay attention to that. We're going to notify you about that. And on the Patreon, we're going to talk about some trade setups in the individual stocks that we are about to go over right now. Apple on the 30-minute. Remember, this was the trade setup we gave in the last Patreon video. We gave this video out last week, and we just said right around here, this Apple looks like the best opportunity for downside. And look at that move. I mean, if you just look at this move, you can make some great money in this overall move, down 2.6% here, touching the bottom of our zone, taking profit. And now, if you take that course, you'll know, how do I not get screwed? How do I know to get out of this position? And you are seeing that signal right here that we just mentioned on the course. And we talked about that a little bit live. So join us live for some stock updates. What are we noticing right now for Apple? Ooh, it's really close to the center line here, which means this can continue that negative trend if it crosses over. So Apple actually can see some more weakness, and we just want to pay attention. Is that going to create a divergence, right? Some kind of double bottom, some kind of divergence, and we're going to react to that. But as of right now, you'd have to say the 30-minute, if this curls over, that would be a bearish thing. But as of right now, the Apple right now in a positive trend on the 30-minute. So we want to pay attention to that. But was the 2 hour able to curl up? No, it wasn't. But look where it is. It's right by the center line. So this 2 hour divergence here, it can lead to the daily rotating over. Maybe we'll take a peek at that for a second. But right now, what are we noticing? Well, the 2 hour by the center line. So if that sees some positivity, you can take out this high, maybe go make a new one, maybe get a double top, and then maybe this is the moment. Okay, so paying attention to how you can get screwed is what we put on the course over the weekend. And people are, I'm really seeing a huge positive reaction, and I'm pumped about it. A lot of people pumped about it because that is a confusing thing. When do you hold on to a trade, and when do you play the bounce? When do you do this? And it really specifies it for you. So, but as far as Apple goes, curls up on the 2 hour, positivity can come. We can test this high, go make a new one. And then we just want to pay attention to that 30-minute if it's going to roll down for downside. Let's see if that daily was able to roll over with that 2 hour divergence. No, it wasn't, not yet. So there is still a possible positive move coming here because we haven't necessarily rolled over on this MACD, not confirming a pullback at this point. So once we do confirm that pullback, yeah, I would expect us to go down towards maybe like 180 or somewhere around this gap support down here towards 180 to 182, maybe down towards our gray zone. And we'll talk about that when it's happening, especially when we go live tomorrow. Tesla on the daily. On this day right here, on Wednesday, we were saying be careful if we break this trend and we cross over on the MACD. Now, we did break the trend, but did we cross over on the MACD? No, we didn't. The reason we were saying to be careful with Tesla if it does cross over on the MACD is because look how close you are to going negative. Negative trends are a bad thing. Negative trends are a bad thing for the stock price, right? So we have to react to that. And the last time we went into a negative trend on the daily was right here. And look at that. It's just really, really bad to the downside. So you don't want to get caught up in that if you are going long. So we pay attention to the signals here right now, still in a positive trend. Okay, so let's go look at a 2 hour. Let's just break this down top to bottom. What are we noticing? 2 hour, right by the center line. Okay, right by the center line, not curled up just yet, but it looks like another positive move could come. We'll pay attention to those weekly ranges we give out on Patreon. Those are already up on the Patreon right now. They're pinned to the top so you can see how high Tesla is priced in to go from the options market this week, okay, by Friday close. So if we see some kind of big move up, I'm going to be looking for some kind of double top or divergence up here for Tesla. Looking at a 30-minute, what do we notice? If we are going to go the other direction, that's right, we trade like water on this channel, so we're open to multiple scenarios. Okay, so if Tesla is going to see weakness, it's going to cross on this MACD and go what? negative, okay? So negative territory down below you, which means what? We can test this low. We could go make a new one. We want to see if any divergence, or if we're just going to curl back up with some kind of minor drop here. We just want to see if it goes remaining positive, curls up that 2 hour. That means the positive move's happening. But if this is able to go negative, test the low, probably go make a new one, okay? So what we want to pay attention to here, the reason this level is so important right now is because you have a lot of price action here creating some kind of left shoulder. You have a head, and you possibly have that right shoulder forming right now. So this is why you want to pay attention to both sides. There's a way up, there's a way down, and you just need to react and trade like water. Now, Amazon looks like it could see some kind of bounce, and that's Amazon's kind of why I'm leaning towards a bounce on Tuesday. I know everyone's going to be talking about AMC, GME, and all those things, but what if they just rigged the market to go higher and then did it the next week when no one really expects it? Because everyone is expecting some bad things for the market, or everyone's expecting some good things for AMC and GME that could cause bad things for the market. So maybe it doesn't happen this week. Maybe it happens next week. Okay, so we want to pay attention to this signal, and this is kind of something telling me that. Triple divergence down here, down at the lows. Okay, you do have triple divergence down here, possibly some sort of almost double bottom. So if this is able to go positive, what do I want to pay attention to? I want to pull up my 2 hour. I want to pull up my 2 hour and see if that can go positive. So some kind of bounce could come, but I just want you to notice this would be a lot of price action to remain positive. So I think we do see some kind of lower high in this area. I think a lower high makes the most sense for Amazon at this point, but we'll still pay attention to the signals and update you if that changes. Right now, we're kind of being contrarian on Amazon. It's still in negative territory. So a lot of this stuff has to prove going into tomorrow in order for us to fully get bullish on this, right? It's still in negative territory, so it's bearish. But if that can flip and go positive, well, then we could head up a little bit higher, maybe even test these points up here and start to pull back down, okay? We want to pay attention to any kind of liquidity grabs at these highs. I think that would be very, very telling. It looks like the most likely scenario for Amazon is some kind of lower high. Now, NVIDIA, everyone talking about NVIDIA, and this thing is just manipulated higher again. And we actually mentioned this in the video that I just put on the course. Remember, it's $100, guys, until the end of the week. So right now, what are we noticing about NVIDIA? Oh gosh, it is just going higher and higher. And it really looks like some either retail holding, either way you look at it, however you want to explain this, upside that just keeps going up. It is retail holding the bag, I think, at this point. I think we're about to see some kind of rip down for NVIDIA. Now, that doesn't have to happen right away. Look how positive it is. Okay, so if this just beats down to the center line, we could say this is a pullback. It could pull all the way back to 958 and curl right back up. So we're paying attention to the signals. And at this point, the 30-minute, look at that, about to curl up, positive territory. So if we do see some upside here, that might actually fade early on in the week. So paying attention to my weekly expected moves for NVIDIA. Yes, those are given out on the Patreon in the description. Boom, just something like this. If we do get excited, get up there, watch for that to fade pretty quickly, create some kind of 30-minute divergence. If you want that to be a little bit tighter, I think it looks a little cleaner on the 15-minute. So if you wanted to look at the 15-minute, I think this would make sense, right? We get some kind of pop up, and then we see a steep divergence right here that leads you into a negative trend on the 15-minute. And then you just want to monitor and see if you're going into negative trends on the bigger time frame. So that's really what it looks like for NVIDIA. And I've been saying this for a long time. The moment that NVIDIA goes above 1,000, watch out, because shortly after that, it's most likely going to be ripped away. And I think that's very possible. And we talked about that in Saturday's video if you want to go check that out. But pay attention to our weekly expected moves. We could dip back down a little bit more and then curl back up. Some kind of cup and handle would make sense in this area. So we're paying attention to a lot of things, and we're going to watch this live tomorrow. AMD, we talked about this live, how this started to fade, and I said this is probably because everyone saw NVIDIA going up, and then they said AMD's cheaper, let me take a bunch of calls on this, and the algorithms noticed that puts are very cheap because all the retail traders are going to calls, and that algorithm is built by rocket scientists. That was confirmed by the market makers themselves, that they have rocket scientists building it. So it is built to make retail traders lose money, and that's what happened here. So we notice, what do we have here? A bunch of divergences right here. It goes negative. So this bounce here faded, and that just said, hey, it wasn't able to turn back up to positive. So if you zoom in on this MACD, this actually told you not to sell that position if you were short at these levels. It actually told you this is some kind of fake out. If you just waited for this 30-minute bar to print, you would have noticed that is not able to confirm more upside. Now, AMD has done a lot here. on the 30-minute, it's able to go pretty positive. So if we do see some kind of drop, just make sure you've been in this little range for a while. It looks pretty important. So if we are able to hold up at lower levels, maybe we do something like this before we see the next push higher. And then we want to pay attention also to a 2-hour. The 2-hour, if that curls up into positive territory, there you go. That might be a positive move for AMD. We can pay attention to our weekly range and then put out that video on Patreon if it gives us some kind of setup. So what I'm saying here is we have this here. If it creates some kind of divergence, then that would be a pretty good setup because it's really close to going negative. And right when everyone thinks AMD is about to make a huge move like NVIDIA, that thing is ripped away. And we don't want to be tricked by this market anymore. So I'm trying to be as blunt as I can. Meta did something very good on the 2-hour. Okay, Meta did something very good. It turned up into positive territory on this bar here. We see some flagging. It looks like the most likely scenario as these signals look right now for the 2-hour is we're going to see continued positivity. The thing about this is, what if that is brief? What if that is brief and we create a triple divergence? Okay, triple divergence is very strong and it can flip over the daily. So the daily here is still in negative territory for Meta. Okay, so if you lose the daily, right, you lose that daily, you're able to drop down on this MACD, curl down with some kind of 2-hour divergence after a pop. Really pay attention if we start to lose 453.08, because if we're losing that, then we might go test these lows down here or go make a new one. So that's what I'd pay attention to for Meta right now. I can go look and do a 30-minute, and you're just going to notice what it was able to get into positive territory, and it was able to get there pretty good, right? It's up there pretty good. So if we are going to see a pullback earlier on in the day, right, we're trading like water. So we're talking about multiple scenarios, and then we're just reacting to which one happens. Sorry about that, dog barked for a sec. But if we're going to see some weakness early on in the week, then we're going to trade like water, right? So we're going to see this pull down, and then we're going to react if that curls back up into positive territory, because that would mean there is more positivity left in this move. And maybe we create some kind of little divergence that creates a 2-hour and a 30-minute at the same time. That would be a very, very good signal for momentum dying out. And maybe we actually do see some weakness in that move. And then we just have to manage that trade. And if you struggle managing a trade, you struggle with getting out of a trade, check out that course. We put a video out over the weekend, and we're seeing a very, very good reaction to that video I just put out in the course. This video is going to be a little brief, so volatility is actually the last thing I'm going to go over here, just because volatility looks like what? It's trying to go positive. This is the moment you really have to pay attention to volatility. Sure, we can see some kind of pop, but what if that just creates a divergence point down here and we actually see that cross back up? I've scaled into my volatility position, and I'm looking for one more scale in. So if we do dip down again and then we curl back up and create another point of divergence here, I'm going to say that's probably the moment where volatility is going to scream higher and curl up this daily. Okay, now the daily is still pretty far in negative territory, so I have to manage that trade. I have to watch volatility and see any kind of signal that could hurt my trade in the other direction. So if the 2-hour is able to make some kind of divergence and curl up, well, then this daily might curl up, but can it go positive, and does it remain positive? That's what I'm going to be paying attention to. But just note here that volatility, you still have the 50 very, very close to the 200 at this point. So the crash is still on the table, and I actually think it's going to happen in the next 30 days. And if you want to check out why I think it's happening in the next 30 days, you might want to watch that video from Saturday. Okay, so the main takeaway for this video is we have to trade like water. We have to still keep those scenarios in mind and pay attention to these signals, as I think we're going to get, even though it has a smaller range, we might see some weird market behavior this week, and especially going into June. So the reason we have to keep this in mind is we trade like water, and we have to be open to those scenarios. So we're open to the fact that XLU has crossed over, and maybe it does create some kind of small divergence here and tells us, hey, there is major weakness in utilities, which tells us what? Hey, we might be getting a stock market crash in the next 30 days. So we're paying attention to this stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing. You guys are always fantastic, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow morning live. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Happy Memorial Day, and I'm out of here. Good luck with your trades tomorrow. Peace.